Hey, what's up guys? Today I'm going to be talking about my dad and I's approach on how we insulate our camper van conversion. Since a van is essentially just a big metal box on wheels, it'd be awfully cold or hot if we didn't have proper insulation. For our build, we decided to go with EPS foam insulation, which is a sheet material with a rating of R5. The specific one we went for is 1 inch thick, and this went for most of our insulation. This is our first time building a camper conversion, so I feel like going with sheet material was a good choice because it just seems easier to work with. I have seen other people who use spray foam insulation for their camper vans, and it looks like there would be better coverage with that. However, for our first build, we decided to just do everything ourselves. And with spraying a van, if you're doing it DIY, then you have to buy all the material, and we just didn't really want to go that route. For the way we went, layering is very important because since we're using sheet material, there would be gaps to fill along the side, and this requires more accurate cuts so that the insulation doesn't leave a draft. We were installing to keep the EPS sheets against the van. We just used some silicone on the other side and pressed it up against so that it would stick to the outer shell of the van, and we just used some wood scraps to hold it up while it dried. For the floor, we screwed in some 2x2s and 2x4s into the base, and we continued to cut the appropriate rectangular sizes to fill the gaps, and topped it off with a 1/2 inch of plywood. To really get all the edges, we decided to use foam spray insulation. And in layering up the EPS sheets, remember how I said that it should be accurate? Turns out that it was quite difficult to get these cuts as close to the edge as possible, and we had to use a lot of pieces to fill in the side, especially when it was a little bit bigger and the foam spray insulation wouldn't work so well. Since the EPS sheets that we installed had some sizable gaps around the edge, then we had to fill those in with whatever scraps we could find. And this is overall a lot more work, so I probably would have spent a little bit more time to cut a more accurate size before we installed it. These sizable gaps leave air pockets, which if you don't seal the rest of the insulation properly, then it'll leave space for cold air to come into the van. If we were to do this again, I think it would have been better if we had the EPS sheets with a sheet of foiled foam before installing the ribs into the frame of the van. That way, at the very least, we would be able to have a sealed air pocket along the edges. There are also gaps in the channels which make up the ribs of the van, which is a bit more difficult to insulate. So we ended up using that black foam insulation for pipes. Once we finished the 2 layers of EPS, it was time to install the wooden ribs to the cage of the van. This would be the main mounting point for the walls and the ceiling that we're going to nail gun in. We used 1/2 inch plywood strips for the flexibility and strength that it offered, and we screwed that directly into the cage of the van. Before installing the ceilings and walls, we laid some wires for the electrical work for our 12-volt lights and 110-volt outlets, which I'll be talking about in more detail in the next video. To top off the insulation for our walls and ceiling, we went with some wooden slats with a tongue and groove that we bought from Home Depot. This was easy to install as we could just install it piece by piece. And this material being about 1/2 inch or 5/8 inch thick, it was easy to install piece by piece rather than just one large sheet. We also thought about just using a large 1/4 inch sheet and just nail gunning that to the wall. However, 1/4 inch material isn't rigid enough for the wall if you're going to end up leaning on it, and 1/2 inch plywood as a large sheet would be too big and heavy to install. In installing our ceiling and wall, we just used the nail gun and pinned it to the wooden ribs we just installed. Overall, that was basically the process we took to insulate our van. I would love to hear if you guys are in the process of doing a van conversion yourselves and what stage you guys might be at. Also, if you have any questions, you can feel free to leave it in the comments down below. If you found this video helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button. And if you want to see more videos like this in the future, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell notification icon so you don't miss a video. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I will see you guys in next week's video. Bye.